My question is, can you just talk about...
I'm very happy. I'm very, very, very happy. Oh, am I happy now? That might be the most exciting thing of everything there. I think this might be the best of the best right there, folks. That might be my highlight of this earnings. Howdy, folks. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome in, folks. Welcome in, welcome in. Hope everybody's doing phenomenal out there. We got a busy live stream here today. Obviously, all eyes on Palantir, big Palantir earnings. Which camera am I on? I am on that camera. Okay. WTI, this is an important one. This is so important. We need to keep WTI down this next 3 months. If we can keep WTI down the next 3 months, inflation should not be an issue for us this summer, and the Fed could likely start lowering rates at the end of summer or fall time. The big thing that's worried me about if the Fed's going to even be able to lower rates has been oil price. Because if you saw oil price go on a big run this summer, next thing you know, oil's $100+ a barrel, you're going to see prices a gallon of gas in most big cities $5 plus, if not $6 plus. If we go $100 plus on oil, which would cause a lot of inflation, cause the consumer to get hit harder, right? And that would not be good. That'd be no bueno, okay? Copper's hot. You know, and copper can sometimes be a recessionary indicator. So meaning essentially, if you see copper prices going down, that could mean recession's coming. Crypto, Bitcoin's running. I don't know if you guys heard Tommy Lee. He's talking about Bitcoin 150,000 base case before the end of the year. Man is talking wild, but we'll see. Maybe he's going to be right. Okay, so, man, Palantir. Okay, so here's the numbers we got to keep in mind for Palantir. Ideally, if it's for EPS, we'd love to see better than 8 cents of EPS. Okay? That would be ideal. But the much more important number, by the way, anybody that's just joining, make sure you subscribe here. If you have Amazon Prime, you should get a free subscription. That way you don't see ads during this live stream here today. We got earnings coming out here in just a bit, and then we're going to listen to the full conference call with Carp and the team. So only 17% revenue growth expected for this quarter they're about to report. That's a number that I feel like they might have went too low. I had trouble seeing Palantir report anything less than a 2. It's really hard for me to see Palantir report anything less than 20% growth. I'm almost thinking more toward 25%. So that's where things get really intriguing here about kind of that expectation versus maybe what Palantir can come through with, right? Then if we look at next quarter, analysts have them growing 20%, the following quarter about 22% revs, and the following quarter about 22% roughly, right? So now Palantir just announced last quarter, talking about 70% commercial growth. It looks like 2024 should be a much better year on the government side of the business than last year was. So if it's a much better year for the government side of the business for Palantir, right? And then you tack on this crazy U.S. commercial growth of like 70% or so. I mean, we could be looking at some of the most extraordinary growth rates on the revenue side that Palantir has had in years, right? And so, you know, we'll see. But I do like the setup for Palantir. I do like the setup. It's crazy it's rocketing this much, though. I will say that. It is it's an insanely epic move here going into these earnings. I mean, this is the most arrogant move I've seen from a stock all earnings season. You know, this is just a crazy move. 8% plus for the day. I mean, whoo! So Palantir, if you look at the valuation, 1000xstocks.com. If you want to join the waitlist for 1000xstocks.com, you can go to 1000xstocks.com, join the waitlist. I mean, you know, based upon analyst estimates, the forward PM Palantir looks very rich, clearly, right? But the thing is with Palantir is the company just got to profitability, right? Just got there. And so when you think about it from their context, they could eat up this forward P over this next couple years, right? I mean, you think about this year they're going to be able to earn tremendous amounts of money from interest income. That's basically in the bank, no pun intended, right? Because we know the Fed's going to have rates likely 5% plus probably this entire year. Because even if they cut, it's probably going to be later in the year. So likely 5% plus yields the whole year. So this year, Palantir is likely locked in 5% plus on those rates for treasuries, which means interest income is going to be insanely high. Additionally, they're also going to buy back a ton of shares, likely this year as well, which also helps your earnings per share, because if you bring your share count down and your net income goes up, well, it's a very good thing for your EPS, right? Now, additionally, if you talk about big revenue growth, much higher revenue growth than was expected, that can also boost that bottom line, right? So Palantir, it could look like, wow, it's such an expensive stock here today, but if you look out to what they're earning 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 24 months from now versus where analysts are thinking, it could be quite dramatically a better situation than analysts are anticipating here, right? And so that's where sometimes forward P can fool you a little bit if a company's underlying results get much better than anybody anticipated. And that could be a situation that happens with Palantir, and I wouldn't be surprised if their profitability comes in much above where folks are expecting. We'll see, right? But I wouldn't be surprised at all. So just a little food for thought in regards to that, right? Then you can say, okay, look at a Palantir versus an NVIDIA. And first off, I think NVIDIA is undervalued. Secondly, NVIDIA is already going through a massive kind of growth cycle. Palantir's major growth cycle is really just starting here in 2024. So it's different, right? NVIDIA's growth cycle started in 2023. Palantir's major growth cycle starting in likely 2024. So it just took an additional year kind of for these more software-related names to kind of see their upticks versus the chip makers. The chip makers are the ones that are going to see the positive benefit first. So just a little food for thought in regards to that. But Palantir doesn't have a lot of room to really move up their gross margins, but I do believe they have an immense amount of room to move up the net margins. I mean, net margins for companies like Palantir, it's not crazy to think net margins of 30% for these sorts of companies like a Palantir. If you want to throw in, let's throw in a Mr. Softy, for instance, okay? Mr. Softy's net margin is 35% for that company, right? By the way, isn't that beautiful with 1000X? Literally just be able to type in a ticker symbol and get all the data exactly what I want laid out like that. Oh, it's magical. So, I mean, this net margin you're seeing from Microsoft is where I do believe Palantir is going long term. I do believe long term we'll see a Palantir with a 30% plus net margin on that company. It's just a matter of time. Are they getting there this year? No. Are they getting there next year? No. But are they going to make progress this year, next year, and following years to get to that 30% plus number? I do believe yes. And so that's just a very compelling opportunity. When you think about the revenue growth opportunity of this company, the EPS growth opportunity for this company, and then you tack on a net margin expansion that should likely play out significantly over the coming years. I mean, oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's very, very compelling. Palantir is 7.8% up right now at the moment for the stock. Obviously having a tremendous day here. And keep these numbers in mind, folks, when Palantir earnings hit here in just a bit. We're about 5 minutes away. We want to see, analysts are at 17.6%. We want to see 20% plus revenue growth. We really want to see 25% plus. If we can see 25% plus, let's freaking go. If for any reason, I don't even want to get this excited, but if for any reason we see a 3 in front of the number, it's game over. It's game freaking over, okay? 8 cents EPS expected. We want to beat that. We also want to beat all these EPS expectations for the remainder of the year. We know mad interest income's coming in for the rest of the year. We know Carp and the team's running pretty lean, right? And we know that revenue should be skyrocketing this year. Is the biggest question for me, is Palantir growing revenue 20% plus this year or 30% plus? And right now I'd put it as a coin flip. Based upon what I saw their U.S. commercial growth, I'm like, if they keep raising that number, we might be closer to a 30% revenue growth number. And if that happens, we could be talking about EPS that's significantly above where analysts are at as well here, okay? So that's just a little food for thought there.
Julianne, hang on, because we do have those Palantir results out.
Here we go.
Crossing
Official
right now,
time.
and it's a beat and a raise. Earnings in line, 8 cents adjusted, 6th straight quarter of GAAP profitability, but revenue better than expected at $634 million. Palantir raising its full year guidance to between $2.68 and $2.69 billion. Per LSIG, that's still a little bit lighter than expectations. Palantir also raising U.S. commercial revenue guidance in excess of $661 million. That's a growth rate representing at least 45% for the full year. Adjusted income guidance higher to between $868 and $880 million. Now, CEO and co-founder Alex Karp telling me, quote, our idea that we would have software infrastructure that would take you beyond chat seems to be working very, very well, and we haven't given up our policy of sticking up for the West and humiliating enemies of the West. For Q1, U.S. commercial, this was, again, the big bright spot, driven largely by Palantir's artificial intelligence platform, AIP, the boot camps it's been doing for the last couple of quarters. U.S. commercial revenue up 40% year-on-year to $150 million, was up 14% from Q4. U.S. commercial customer count of 69% year-on-year, 19% sequentially. The Palantir team telling me use cases that once took months to build using a customer's data, now taking 1 to 5 days. That's leading to faster conversions. In Q1, 136 U.S. commercial deals closed, almost double a year ago. New customers, bigger deals from existing ones. Karp saying this despite a, quote, slow, small, and not the best sales force. Sees this as early days of a software LLM AI revolution, also adding that, quote, you have a lot of people kind of repackaging various LLMs. They don't do anything but chat to each other. Enterprises are bored of it. Consultancies are trying to make them useful. It doesn't work because you need an ontology. Speaking to Palantir's multi-platforms and different various services and software products. Re-acceleration on the government side as well. That's up 16% year-on-year. Should continue. Palantir recently winning the U.S. Army Titan contract, which we covered here on Overtime. Ukraine and Israel using Palantir software in their wars. U.S. government still the largest customer. But Karp telling me, quote, I couldn't be more optimistic for the right reasons, like we have the best products, and for the wrong reasons, because China, Russia, Iran are not going to stop acting up. And I think the next 5 years are going to be marked by violence, disruptions, and war. Wow. I hope he's wrong. Stocks up fractionally. But again, John, it was really U.S. commercial that was the standout this quarter.
Yeah. All right. And in the meantime, Lucid earnings are out. Our Phil LeBeau has those numbers. Phil.
I want to see these Lucid numbers.
Shares of Lucid under a little bit of pressure after the company reported a loss of 30 cents a share in the fourth quarter. That's an adjusted EBITDA loss of $598 million, wider than the 515 loss that many on Wall Street were expecting, but a little bit better than the fourth quarter. So we'll take sequential improvement. If you're a Lucid shareholder, you will see some, see some improvement there. Now you look at the revenue coming in at 173 million versus an estimate of 157 million, so better than expected there. Free cash flow negative $715 million. Lucid liquidity now stands at 5.03 billion, and that liquidity is important for the guidance. They say they have sufficient liquidity to get into the second quarter of next year in terms of production. Their production for this year, they are affirming what they previously gave us as far as guidance, 9,000 vehicles approximately this year. SUV production, the Gravity, begins in the fall, and they are also saying that they plan to start production of a mid-size vehicle in late 2026. Don't forget, we're going to be talking
late 2026
with Peter Rawlinson, CEO of
Lucid.
Lucid.
They could be bankrupt by then, for all we know.
Before he even talks with the analyst. That's coming up in just a little bit. Guys, back to you.
Multiple things. If I heard those numbers correctly, there's multiple things I did not like what I heard. Multiple things, okay? But I want to make sure all those numbers are actually accurate she was talking about there. So let's go back to when she was talking about the numbers.
Stay tuned. We're looking forward to it. West and humiliating enemies of the West. For Q1, U.S. commercial, this was, again, the big bright spot, driven largely by Palantir's artificial intelligence platform, AIP, the boot camps it's been doing for the last couple of quarters. U.S. commercial revenue up 40% year-on-year.
So 40%, I mean, it's still a great number in the grand scheme of things, but the big problem is that's an insane deceleration on a quarter-over-quarter basis. Last quarter, 70% U.S. commercial growth. So when you talk about going from 70% down to 40%, not something you really want to see. If anything, we want to see another reacceleration over that, like up to 75% or 85%, or if there was a deceleration, maybe down to 60%, not all the way down to 40%. So that was troublesome.
U.S. commercial customer count of 69% year on year, 19% sequentially. The Palantir team telling me use cases that once took months to build using a customer's.
U.S. commercial highlights. U.S. commercial revenue grew 40% year over year, 14% quarter over quarter. Oh, so customer count grew 69%. Okay. That's good then. U.S. commercial remaining deal value grew 74%. Okay, so those numbers are good there. I thought she was alluding to 40% growth overall for U.S. commercial, like not just revenue, but 40%. That would be a big deceleration. The fact that they came in with 69%, it's a deceleration, but it's 1% deceleration from 70% to 69%, right? So that's not really troublesome.
5 days. That's leading to faster conversions. In Q1, 100% year on year to $150 million, was up 14% from Q4. U.S. commercial customer count of 69% year on year, 19% sequentially. The Palantir team telling me use cases that once took months to build using a customer's data, now taking 1 to 5 days.
Yep, we know about that.
That's leading to faster conversions. In Q1, 136 U.S. commercial deals closed, almost double a year ago. New customers, bigger deals from existing ones. Karp saying this despite a, quote, slow, small, and not the best sales force, sees this as early days of a software LLM AI revolution. Damn. Also adding that, quote,
sounds like Karp is not happy with the sales force. That's interesting. That's vicious, man. You publicly blasted them on the earnings release? Damn.
A year ago. New customers, bigger deals from existing ones.
That's rough.
Karp saying this despite a, quote, slow, small, and not the best sales force, sees this as early days of a software LLM AI revolution. Also adding that,
if your girl tells you you're slow, small, and not the best, it's not a good thing. That's all I'm going to say. Damn.
Packaging various LLMs. They don't do anything but chat to each other. Enterprises are bored of it. Consultancies are trying to make them useful. It doesn't work because you need an ontology. Speaking to Palantir's multi-platforms and different various services and software products. Re-acceleration on the government side as well. That's up 16% year on year.
Yeah.
Should continue. Palantir recently winning the U.S. Army Titan contract, which we covered here on Overtime. Ukraine and Israel using Palantir software in their wars. U.S. government still the largest customer. But Karp telling me, quote, I couldn't be more optimistic for the right reasons, like we have the best products, and for the wrong reasons, because China, Russia, Iran are not going to stop acting up. And I think the next...
Okay, so in terms of Palantir's numbers, I'm just trying to think where we can poke holes. There's not that many holes you can really poke in those numbers there. If you want to say, okay, U.S. commercial customer count down 1% sequentially, okay, I guess that's a hole you can poke because it's like it's not increasing in terms of sequential basis. Like, you know, it didn't go to 75% or 80% or 90% or something like that. So I guess that's a small hole, but I mean, 1% sequential, I mean, it's like nothing. EPS in line, I guess that's a hole you could poke. It would have been great to see like a 10-cent number or 11 cents or something like that, like a nice EPS beat as well to just throw on top. The revenue beat and the revenue guidance beat were good, but you would have liked to see it even more. And obviously the CNBC headline there, right? I mean, typical freaking, like what was the headline they popped on the screen there? You know what the headline was. Palantir, light guidance. Light guidance. That was the big headline they popped on their screen, right? Look at this. Look at this. Palantir issues light fiscal year revenue guidance. That, like, of all the things they could have talked about, they post that up there, right? I mean, that's so typical. And then at Apple, holy smokes, they freaking, it's unbelievable. Apple, what is the big headline? Was it anything about iPhone was down 10% year over year? No. It was Apple announces the biggest buyback ever, $110 billion. They had a million negative things they could have said about Apple. But no, the big headline was the biggest buyback ever. It cracks me up, man. It's crazy.
And specifically what you're seeing with challenges in pork and prepared foods and higher commodity prices there. Walk me through it.
But I mean, that's, you know, I guess that's what we should expect at this point in time, right? Now, stock down 6%. This conference call is going to matter significantly. This conference call, we'll jump on that conference call when it starts and we'll watch it live. That conference call could completely flip this stock. So that is one thing to kind of keep in mind. If that conference call goes really well, CARP sounds insanely bullish, then we could completely flip this stock around. So just a little food for thought in regards to that whole situation. I've seen it happen before. Conference call will matter. Okay, good news. They got the presentation up here now, folks. They got it up. Okay. So, here we go. Let's get more into these numbers. U.S. commercial revenue grew 40% year over year, 14% quarter over quarter. So that's good. That means you're on a sequential basis, that revenue is increasing. That's a good thing. That's what you want to see. Commercial revenue grew 27% year over year and 5% quarter over quarter. Also good to see a reacceleration on a sequential basis. So right off the bat, commercial business very strong. Revenue grew 21% year over year, 4% quarter over quarter. So once again, good to see on a sequential basis. But it's clear, if you got your commercial business growing 27%, but revenue only grew 21%, it's clear that still, at this point in time, the government business is still somewhat of a weakness for Palantir in the short term. Palantir closed 87 deals over $1 million. That's impressive. U.S. commercial customer count grew 69% year over year, 19% quarter over quarter. I don't think that's accurate. Because if I recall, last quarter, Palantir grew commercial customer count 70%, right? Oh, but that's thinking about a year over year basis, and then we're talking quarter over quarter. So then they increased another 19%? Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Okay. I'm very happy. I'm very, very, very happy. Oh, am I happy now? Adjusted operating income, $226 million, 36% margin, and the sixth consecutive quarter of expanding adjusted operating margins. Good. Fifth consecutive quarter of GAAP operating profitability, 13% margin. Sixth consecutive quarter of GAAP profitability, 17% margin. Adjusted free cash flow, $149 million, 29% margin. GAAP EPS, 4 cents. Adjusted EPS, 8 cents. So that was a one number I would have loved to see higher there. I mean, now I can't even poke holes at this. I can't even poke holes at that anymore now. Now that I just realize it's 19% quarter over quarter. How data-driven acquisition identified over $90 million in savings for the Department of Veterans Affairs in 6 months. Okay. Palantir and Oracle partnering to provide secure cloud and AI solutions. All right. We already know about the boot camps. That's great to see. General Mills, we're saving about $14 million annually, and it's only deployed to part of our network. These are sorts of quotes, folks, that are very, very important for Palantir. Like I always tell you guys with Palantir, all that matters is Palantir's product either makes you or saves you more than what you spend on it. So if General Mills is spending $7 million a year on Palantir's product, if it's saving them $14 million a year, you're getting a 2x ROI there. It's beautiful, right? It's all that it comes down to. And then if they say it's only deployed in part of our network, then you're very incentivized to deploy it more and more inside General Mills, right? And maybe if you got a $7 million contract with them, it goes to a $20 million contract or something like that, right? Just throwing numbers out there. In less than 4 months, we created something from POC all the way to production. So I'm guessing point of contact, maybe? Palantir made it faster and smarter. Lows. Good. So U.S. commercial remaining deal value. Wow, that's up 74% year over year. Wow. U.S. commercial remaining deal value up 14% quarter over quarter. That might be the most exciting thing of everything there. I think this might be the best of the best right there, folks. That might be my highlight of this earnings. U.S. commercial remaining deal value up 74% year over year and 14% on a sequential basis. It's very good. U.S. commercial deals closed, 136. 94% year over year U.S. commercial. So clearly Palantir's product is going almost like viral. I would say it's borderline viral in the SaaS space. And it's incredible, right? And you kind of put Palantir more into like a SaaS type company. If you're going to categorize it as something, you kind of got to put it more in it. And for a company in this space, this is like borderline viral product. I mean, that's incredible. 3-year U.S. commercial customer count growth, 12x. U.S. commercial total contract value, $286 million. It's 131% growth year over year. That's really good for Palantir's long term there. We achieved GAAP profitability for the 6th consecutive quarter. So net income now up to over $100 million of GAAP net income. I like that. I like that. And look at where this company was not that long ago. You know, they were taking over $100 million losses in a quarter. And now to be taking over $100 million positive net incomes, let's freaking go. We achieved GAAP operating profitability for the 5th consecutive quarter. Our Q1 2024 GAAP operating margin is 13%, up 1,200 basis points year over year. Look at that operating income, folks. That matters. That matters. Commercial revenue growth, 27%. U.S. commercial, 40% there. Government revenue is still the weak spot for the company. The good news is it's getting a little better, but it's still the weak spot. Government revenue up 16% year over year. U.S. government revenue up 12%. And I mean, the thing that's disappointing about the government business, for me at least, for Palantir, is, I mean, we're in a time period when it seems like the government's still spending pretty aggressively, and we're also in a time period where you've got multiple wars going on, right? Or wars, conflicts, whatever you want to call them. And so, I mean, you just, like, the government business has just been, that's the letdown, right? Now, the good news for me is I didn't invest in the stock for the government revenue. That was kind of just the extra side piece for me. The real reason I invest in the stock is because of the commercial business. So, but yeah, I mean, that government business, a little sleepy. Total revenue growth, 21%, up year over year for the company. Remember, 25% was the number where it was like, remember I told you guys, if we go 25% plus, we're blasting off to the moon. We obviously weren't there. We're at 21%. So we can't go to the moon right now. We continue to invest aggressively in AIP in the U.S. while driving operating leverage at scale. Okay. We ended Q1 2024 with $3.9 billion in cash, cash equivalents, U.S. Treasury securities, and no debt. Love it. Love it. Love it. Let's go, baby. Overall, good to see there. Good to see. I can't wait for this conference call. You know the conference call is going to be freaking entertaining when that baby gets started. Woo, baby. That is going to be entertaining. It's about to get rolling.
Good afternoon. I'm Anna Saro from Palantir's finance team, and I'd like to welcome you to our first quarter 2024 earnings call.
Let's go, baby.
We started the year exceedingly strong with revenue of $634 million.
So good, great quarter. My question is, can you just talk about what conversion looks like from boot camps and maybe just double click on a typical customer? What's now you have more and more data points. What's that showing you about conversion from a boot camp to actually signing a deal?
Thank you. That concludes
Absolutely,
Q&A for today's call.
Overall, that was a very good conference call. Was there anything that necessarily stuck out that was like so amazing? Like, wow, I never saw this coming. Like, this is insane. No, I don't think so. There was just a lot of really good data. A lot of the stuff was reiterated that we already saw in the earnings release, right? I thought the one thing that stuck with me that I thought was really good was CART basically saying that they're very early in on the sales process side, right? In terms of selling the product. Very early days, and they're going to be able to convert much better over time as they figure out how to sell AIP, better and better over time and get more people into the ecosystem. So I thought that was good news, and it is very early days still in AIP. I mean, a year ago, most no one was even talking about AIP, and now it's this big thing for Palantir. So I thought that was one really good thing. I thought it was a solid conference call overall, but it wasn't the type of conference call that necessarily it wasn't some sort of new information or data that necessarily made like, oh my gosh, like this is insane. Like, stock's going to go crazy now. So, but yeah, we'll see where it trades out tomorrow. I mean, it's all irrelevant. And as a long-term investor in this company, this stock could be 23 tomorrow, 25, 27. It makes no difference. Literally, like for a long-term investor like me, it makes no difference. If the stock's 27 tomorrow, am I selling Palantir? No. If it's 30 tomorrow, am I selling Palantir? No. If it's 23 tomorrow, am I selling Palantir? No. If it's 22, if it's 25, no, it's all irrelevant. As somebody that just wants to be on this train for the next many years, and obviously the gains have been extraordinary so far, and I think they're going to continue to be extraordinary. Palantir is one of my biggest positions also in the Patreon portfolio. So at the end of the day, and for the people that want to buy, I mean, it's good for them if the stock does go down, right? Which we'll see. It's not a very strong conviction after hours, I can tell you that, though. Only down 6% tomorrow, or 6% after hours. I mean, that's not showing that much conviction in that after hours trade. And there's going to be a certain amount of retail that's ready to buy tomorrow, right? On this dip. So we'll see, if it even gets like a 5% plus dip tomorrow. But as a long-term investor, it's irrelevant. Like, it doesn't matter. That's the thing. Like, literally 21 tomorrow, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, 29, 30. None of it matters. As somebody that wants to be on this train for the next several years, the bottom line with the business model is everything's pointing in the right direction. Everything. Across the board. I do want to see them continue to increase that profitability quite a bit, but everything is exactly where I want to see it. So, I continue to be a very happy shareholder. We got the 5,555 shares in the public count, a bunch more in the Patreon portfolio, and I continue to be a proud, happy shareholder overall at Palantir. So good earnings, good conference call. I'm going to make a big beast video for the main channel tonight. Alrighty, guys. Happy Palantir earnings day. Exciting one. Big video coming tonight. Main channel. Much love and peace.